Laboring on Labor Day here. These are the true warriors. So thanks for being here in person, or I know we have media online as well. I'll make a couple opening statements and then I'll address people online, and then we'll go to our media that are here today. First of all, we're pleased to win the game. I think any time in college football you can come up with a win, that's a good thing. And it was particularly important for us as just coaches interacting with our players. Many times you think you understand how things are going to be, but once the rubber hits the road and dealing with adversity, that's the X factor. And so we were pleased with how our players responded, because while we're pleased with the win, the performance certainly can improve, but the attitude was excellent. It really was pleased with our players, and that to some people on the outside may not think that's that big a deal, but it really is, because I think that's a part of earning trust as a coach, and for those players to believe in you. And those are things that it's so much harder to ever give up when you have people that are emotionally invested. So really pleased with that. I think we came out of the game particularly healthy. DJ May did not finish, and Jalen Claiborne did not finish, but both of them will return to practice today. So we're pleased with that. So we should go into this next game against Air Force healthy. Air Force is an excellent football team. I think they're significantly improved from last year. Watching the Nicholls State game, I think anytime you look at Air Force through the years, even when I had a chance to coach against them, you start at the quarterback position. And Pearson certainly does add a lot. Owens is a great running back, and I think the other thing is they got a significant upgrade at fullback, so that's going to be a challenge for us there as well. So a lot to play for. A good start, but certainly was not perfect. There's areas of improvement. We were down -2 in the turnover margin, and so typically how we stage things, we can withstand one. We have probably need to do a better job when that ball's up in the air, going out and getting it, stripping, creating more takeaways. So that needs to be a point of emphasis. Along with that, execution needs to improve. I think it was great to see Colby respond from not making some great decisions, but I thought as the game went along, he got better and didn't get rattled. So that'll certainly be an area of improvement. Defensively, we had a couple busted coverages, and those things, while we say those are easily fixed, that's not exactly true, but we need to execute better, and I think that'll be a point of emphasis this next week. And I think there's some areas in the kicking game that we can improve a little bit in, but overall we were pleased with that. So at this time, I'll open it up to the questions on people that are on the telephone.
Coach J.P. Harold Evanston with the Big Dog. As you mentioned, this is Labor Day. Comment on just how lucky are those of us who earn a paycheck.
Coach, this is Herb Moss at Denver Post. They're kind of new to the area here in a way, and over the years, the Wyoming Air Force game has been really one of the top rivalry games in this area. Are you concerned at all that it had to come this early in the season before you really get maybe a good handle on your team?
That's a great question, Herb, and I've been updated a little bit about how intense the games have been through the years, not only just recently, but even from some of our former players and some of the great games that have been decided on the gridiron. Coaches live in the present. When the schedule comes out, we're soldiers. We kind of just play who's next on board, and so we've planned for this. This is nothing that caught us obviously by surprise. We had a significant amount of work during the course of the summer, and we've had work, quite frankly, during fall camp. And so I think those things we've addressed. Now the proof's going to be in the pudding on how we play 8 o'clock Saturday night.
The Air Force, in some ways, it seems to have gotten away from what it used to call its old triple option offense. Does it make it more difficult to prepare for them than any other team, because maybe they still might mix that in a little bit?
certainly a triple option football is, it's very effective. Not many people do it. And quite frankly, a lot of young coaches have a hard time getting their arms wrapped around that. If you coached in the 80s, about half the teams either ran option football out of a split back veer or out of some semblance of a wishbone. What I think option teams have done over the last couple of years is been able to refine and change some blocking schemes and taken triple option plays into a different level. That poses a problem in itself, but along with that, the addition of some of the other schemes that they have implemented. When you say they've kind of gotten away from who they are, they've still been able to integrate a lot of those things and intertwine them within their offense. They're very explosive, and that was evident in the numbers they put up against Nichols. And not only their offense, but I think their defense. They do a lot of different things out of a three-down look and a lot of different pressures. So we've got our hands full, and your point was correct. I mean, the second game of the year to have a conference game is certainly challenging, but we're in hopes that they would look at University of Wyoming and say we've got our hands full also, and so we're going to play them, and we're excited about it.
Judging from the results of the first games, why the rushing defense might be a big factor in this game coming up. Both Wyoming and Air Force have good running games and so forth. Eddie Yarbrough, is he kind of the leader of your defense?
And that's correct, Herb. Eddie has been not only an excellent player, but he's an excellent leader. He's chosen as a captain. He's an underclassman. He's a productive guy. He walks the walk and talks the talk. He practices very hard. He encourages other people around him, and I think his play and his presence certainly is uplifting to our defense. Our defense is going to be one where we're going to gang tackle, hold points down, make you go the long, hard way, stop the run, and you kind of hit the nail on the head, and having players like Eddie is certainly helpful.
Thank you.
You bet, Irv.
Coach JP and Evanston again. Friday night I ran into the father of true freshman Brinkley Jolly in the lobby of the Cheyenne Marriott. Mr. Jolly said Brinkley might be ready.
Any more questions from Harold and Irv? Guys, thanks for working so hard on Labor Day. Bye now. Okay, open it up to questions from people in the room.
Craig, I know you've probably have you had a lot of experience when you're at North Dakota State getting ready for whether it was triple option or this type of offense, and how have you kind of approached it? You mentioned you worked a little bit in the summer, coaches did. I know you did a little bit in fall camp. Is that something you always like to do, or what's been your experience of preparing for an offense like that?
Well, it's a challenge, and as I mentioned, option football has changed from the 70s when I was a player through the 80s and 90s. Many teams have gotten away from it. Coach Osborne always believed in option. There's different formations you can run out of it, but it stresses a defense because what you do, you integrate the quarterback, and that's the 11th man. And most times on defense, it's a chess game out there, Robert. You can stage things to where it's 10 offensive guys against 11 defensive guys, and so you always have a free hitter. Well, now, with an option offense, and that quarterback being an integral part of it as far as not only a passer but a ball carrier, now you take that out. Now you don't have a free hat for everything, and everybody has to be in the right place. What makes Air Force so challenging is, one, they're disciplined, they're unselfish, they know the offense inside and out. The guys who are on the field have had numerous repetitions. There's very few things that they have not seen. And so their execution is remarkable, and our challenge is in a short order, in a short week here, not a short week, but a week, to get ourselves ready to play and make sure that we have our assignments down, that we have a scheme in place that addresses those issues that I just said that are a challenge. And so, that's a challenge for us, and our guys are working very hard defensively. Quite frankly, these are games that I personally really enjoy because it's somewhat of you know, there was a special time in the 80s when you were talking about all the things that, you know, whether it was Arkansas or Oklahoma or the Houston Beer and all these other teams. And we appreciate Air Force's commitment to sticking to their guns.
How much of a benefit is it, Coach, having the experience on defense, guys that have prepared for this offense through their careers?
I think there is a benefit. You know, there's a pattern that you learn through the years of what things work, what things don't work. You know, certainly, you know, while there are differences, our staff, you know, we had to prepare against Georgia Southern deep into the playoffs, and while Air Force is very prolific, I thought Georgia Southern did a nice job with their offense. And so there's things that we have learned, but then you've got, doesn't matter how much coaches know, it matters how much our players know and whether they can execute it in the fourth quarter, particularly when they're tired.
Coach, you mentioned Air Force an improved team from a really down year last year. Where in particular are you seeing them as a better program this year?
Well, I think right away you start at the quarterback position. And Pearson, you know, to make that offense go, that guy has got to be a great decision maker, a great leader, handling the offense. And we believe Pearson's an excellent player, and I think Coach Calhoun would probably echo that same assessment. He's able to throw the football, and a lot of times that's a factor that you don't have to contend with. Well, this guy can throw, and so that stresses the defense. But his decision making, he's certainly an excellent athlete. You know, the next step that we talked about, their fullback. I mean, I think he's a 240-pound guy, and in the old traditional wishbone days, that fullback was a guy that, you know, was a workhorse, and you had to do everything you could to stop him. Well, they have that, and then certainly speed on the edges. I mean, they've got not a tailback, but another running back and a tailback, 40-some yards. I mean, that's hard to do, and that not only came about because of his ability, but everybody else. And so that's where I see a significant improvement. You know, they look like you'd think, okay, the Air Force was looking, so maybe in the process of all those guys not being there last year, they didn't have those weapons, and now they certainly do.
Coach, you know, after the first game, it seems like you learned so much, obviously, from the first game that you can't know throughout fall camp. Just kind of, how much better of a feel do you have for what your team has after a game than you would have had previously?
Well, that's a great question. You know, typically, somewhere in the second quarter, as a head coach, I usually get a pretty good pulse. Everybody say, how are you going to be this year? How are you going to be? And you get a pretty good assessment. It's been our experience that football teams usually make the most improvement between the first and second game, and that's going to be important for us to do. We've got good physical skills. I wouldn't say we have great physical skills, and we're going to need to maximize our talent level. And the things that I mentioned earlier, our decision making, minimizing our turnovers, taking care of the football is going to be critical. And then defensively, you know, we'll make improvements this year. University of Montana was I thought a pretty prolific offensive quarterback in particular, and I thought we did a good job holding the point totals down. However, there's areas that we certainly need to improve. For us to be very good this year, we're going to have to become a more physical football team. And I thought we got a good start, but I think just being a little bit more assured of what we're doing, that will come about. We want to be positive with our group, but we're not going to have rose-colored glasses on. We've got to make significant improvement as we continue with a rigorous schedule here.
I know with the depth chart you have, Uso is his starter over Chase, and I know they play up a lot. Just right. Uso just grade a little bit better. Is that, and I assume they're still going to see probably pretty equal rotations in there.
Your assessment's accurate. You know, it wasn't that we were disappointed with Chase. It was we were really pleased with Uso, and but you're going to see those guys play a lot of repetition in there, particularly if it's a long drive. But that defensive line position, I thought they played well. You know, when we were able to establish the line of scrimmage, we got good push. A lot of times we weren't able to get sacks, but the ball was coming out, and the quarterback was getting hit. That has a collective effect, and so we're pleased with Uso's progress.
Craig, I know the numbers were good, but after looking at the tape, what did you think of your two running backs and how they performed on Saturday?
I thought Sean Wick was outstanding, and we flipped those two. He's listed as number one. Both of them are going to play. Sean did a great job of, you know what, if there wasn't a hole there, he was going to make it. And so I thought that was an outstanding effort on his part. DJ showed his speed. He's got breakaway speed. You know, on the long touchdown, he made the safety miss, and he was gone, and no one could catch him. And so that's kind of a very effective 1-2 punch. And so we're well pleased with that, and I'm really pleased to get some water. Thank you, Tim.
I know a guy like Sam Stratton's always kind of been that guy. Will he be again? And how important? I know all your scout team guys will be important, but how important could this week's preparations be with Sam Stratton showing your defense good looks?
Well, first of all, I'm probably talking to a guy who played on the scout team. And so he's like, touche. I did too. You look at the Nebraska Angels, I was one of those scout team guys. Coach Otto was always yelling at Ed Gummit, Craig, hit the flat. No, the look, you're right on, Robert. The look that we need to get in a short amount of time is imperative. You know, the last thing you want to have happen is for your defense to be out there, and the first time the play is run is what they see in the game. And all the things, the repetition in practice is not a reflection. And so to get those guys schooled up, and the quarterback position is really important. And Sam will be our scout team quarterback. And that'll be a critical role, not only with Sam, but all the other people that are out there.
Coach, you had at right guard, you had Sam Hardy start last week, and obviously he's still even with Jake Jones. I was just wondering, they're even again. You know, what was kind of your assessment of that position? I know both of those guys.
Yeah, and they're rolling, and we'll do the same. And Sam will start. Jake's played really well, but you'll see that rotation throughout the game, and particularly when you get long drives, I think that's important. And when guys show that they're capable of playing, it helps morale of the football team. It builds depth, and so we'll continue to integrate guys if we feel like as coaches that this guy can give us winning performance, and we're going to get him on the field.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the schedule, it is what it is, but your first conference game now, you mentioned last week how important this last week was, the opportunity to kind of get the program on right, but now it's your first conference game.
Yeah.
So do you think anything different about that? Or
every week gets a little bit bigger. You know, I thought it was imperative though. You know, just say, hey, you're going to go out there, you're an FBS school and another school's an FCS school and all that. You guys know how hard it is to win a football game and how important it is to get started with a win. Nothing builds success like success. And so going into a first conference game, I think that's going to be really important also. It's another opportunity for us to take another step forward against a really quality program that's gone to a lot of bowl games. And I do want to mention that we're really pleased that we're playing them at home, and want to say thanks to the crowd that we had Saturday. I don't know, I've been told that, you know, it was probably a little bit more a stronger presence of our fans that were there. It certainly, we had a great collegiate atmosphere. And so I want to say thanks to our fans and encourage our fans to come in and check out the game 8 o'clock on Saturday night.
Craig, is there a game plan for how you run your running backs, or is it a feel as the game going on who's playing better, or is there a plan early?
Yes, there is. There's a certain number of rotations. We chart how many touches a guy hits and how many he gets, and then during the course of the game, then sometimes it's whoever has a hot hand. So that's kind of how we play. I will say that Brian Hill came in and did some nice things, and that was at a really, really critical time of the game when you're inserting a freshman, and he showed up and answered the bell. So we think he's got a really bright future.
Coach, playing at high such elevation, what kind of advantage?
We haven't seen a drive like that with 9 run plays to end the game here in a while. How much does that kind of a small little look of what your offense is?
You got the look right there. When we're really doing well, and that's the passing game is important. We cannot be completely one-dimensional, and that's not to say we won't throw the ball, but at the end of the game, Montana knew. They knew they're not going to throw it. they're going to run the football. And everybody in the stadium knew we were going to run the football. Guess what? We ran the football. And that's when you break another team's will. And you got no answer for that. And those are things that are easy to say, but you have to grind that out. And we'll continue to build on that. And you know, I'm in hopes that our fans, I know this on the sidelines, nothing made me more excited than to see that pile just get moved back and our running back get hit, and then he came up with a couple more yards, and that clock is just rolling. And that's the old-fashioned blue-collar way, which we call Cowboy tough football. That being said, I'll close the press conference.